As music producers, composers, artists, etc., we're often looking for ways that we can monetize our music. We often think, how can I make money from this and how can I turn this into a career? There's many different ways that you can make money from your music, and depending on you and your situation, one way or different ways might work better for you than others. We are all different and we each have our own paths to follow, and of course that takes some time to figure out. Personally, I can't teach you much about selling beats or creating a beat store. I can't really teach you about doing session work on sites like SoundBetter or Air Gigs. I can't teach you how to make income from millions of Spotify streams, or writing for major artist placements with the efforts of trying to make hit songs. What I can teach you, however, and what I've had the most success with personally, is music licensing. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and more specifically, landing ad placements with your music. In an effort to be totally transparent, I do not do this full time yet. There have been a number of times over the last few years where I've almost gone full time with music, and that's something I definitely hope to do soon. And that's kind of another topic for another video, but I just want to be totally transparent, like I said, and I don't really want to act like I'm putting out a false image or pretending to be something that I'm not. I just want to jump in here quickly and say that after editing the video, I actually realized that the video ended up being quite a bit longer than I originally thought, and so I've actually broken this into a two-part series. I really went in depth with this video and tried to give as much value as I could, and so I really don't want to cut out stuff that I think is important and that's going to help you out, but I also don't want to upload a video that's over an hour long. In this two-part series, I'm going to show you how I make cinematic music for brands and ads. I'm going to break down the process of how I landed the ads and what that looked like, and then also break down the music and the productions and show you exactly how I made the music that landed those ads. The reason I'm focusing more on cinematic placements is because this isn't what you'd typically consider, quote-unquote ad music, and it's just kind of a, really a testament to focusing on the music that you're passionate about and what you're good at, and it just goes to show that you don't have to make the cliche happy, snappy, clappy, ukulele, finger snaps, that kind of stuff to land ad placements. I've landed placements with many different styles of music, but definitely what I'm most passionate about and what I feel most called to make is more of the, emotional cinematic music, and so that's really what I focus on these days. I'm going to show you 3 different productions of mine that have landed 4 different ad placements. I'm going to walk you through the 2 different ways in which I landed these ads, and then I'm also going to show you how I made the music and break down the production. First, I'm going to show you 2 different 60-second ad spots that I landed with a brand called Peter Millar, which is like a luxury golf apparel brand. These 2 ad placements were actually written specifically for a brief, and in this situation I actually worked directly with the music producer of the ads, and so I'll kind of walk you through that process and what that looked like, and then of course we'll break down the tracks and I'll show you the productions as well. After that, I'm going to show you a cinematic pop song called On My Mind that I co-wrote and produced with my awesome collaborators Candace and Michael. They have tons of great music as well, and I'll put their links down in the description, so make sure to go give them some love and check out their music as well. This song landed us 2 different spots with Yamaha boats, a 60-second version which I'll link down in the description if you want to check it out, as well as a 30-second version as well. These 2 ads are actually landed through a music library or a music publisher, so I'll walk you through what that process looked like, and then of course we'll break down the production so you can see how I produced the song as well. Lastly, I do want to give credit where credit is due. At the time of landing the first 2 ads that I mentioned, I actually was taking Tommy Z's masterclass called Making Music for Brands. If it weren't for that masterclass, I honestly don't know that I would have even had the confidence or the knowledge to pursue that opportunity in the first place. Like I said, I worked directly with the music producer of the ad, so as I briefly mentioned, I had to handle the licensing contract and negotiate the terms and all that kind of stuff, so this masterclass was hugely helpful in that situation. If you are interested in making music for brands and landing ad placements, I highly recommend checking out this masterclass. I can say personally, I very quickly more than doubled my investment, and yeah, I just absolutely recommend you check it out. I do have a link to this masterclass down in the description if you're interested, and actually if you use my coupon code, you'll save 40%, which is $1,500. Full disclosure, if you do use my coupon code, I do get a kickback, but like I said, this is not something that I'm just pitching without experience. I did actually go through this masterclass, I had amazing results with it, and a very positive ROI. If you would like to make music for brands and land ad placements, I highly recommend checking this out. It is definitely a no-brainer investment. That being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I am going to leave timestamps down below and utilize the chapter, so feel free to skip around if you just want to hear the story about how I landed the ads, or if you just want to see the productions and how the music was made. But if you do want to get into this stuff, I highly recommend that you watch the video all the way through. Alright, first let's go ahead and talk about the 2 ads that I landed with Peter Millar. These both came as a result of building relationships. This is a topic that could be an entire video in and of itself, but I cannot stress enough the importance of building relationships, building your network, and all that kind of stuff if you really want to build a successful career with your music. Now let's be clear, I do not at all mean that you should do this in like a shady or manipulative way. Just be a good person, make friends, and provide genuine value to people. You never know which relationships are going to end up being fruitful, and honestly this journey's just a lot more fun with friends and people in your circle who are also pursuing the same things. This relationship in particular was actually with a friend that I met in an online music course. In this course, we were placed into different songwriting groups, and so we kind of got to know each other throughout that course. After a while being in the group, he actually sent me a message saying that one of his friends was working on some ads, and after hearing the reference tracks, he thought it was right up my alley, so again, he sent me a message and asked if I'd want to submit some music. I said yes, of course, and got very excited, and as soon as I saw the reference material, I got even more excited because, yeah, I mean, he was spot on. This was right up my alley. The ad that they used as a reference was this sort of like really beautiful, ambient, simplistic, evolving cinematic music. I think I had just a few days to send in my music, and I actually ended up making 2 tracks for this pitch. Within a few days of submitting my music, I had heard back from him saying that they loved my music and that they would be reaching out to me shortly. Soon after that, I received the email from his friend, who was the music producer of the ad. An important side note here is that in the ad world, the role music producer means something totally different than in the music world. In the ad world, the music producer is the one who is responsible for curating all the different music for the pitch. They are basically the middleman between the end client and all the musicians. Once I received that email, I actually had to negotiate the terms myself, and then once we came to an agreement, I actually had to provide the licensing agreement myself as well. I actually already did make a video on that exact licensing agreement, as well as some other stuff that will help you avoid losing sync placements, so if you want to check that out, I'll link that down below as well. This ad ended up being for a Sirius XM radio spot that ran for 3 months, and after that ad ended, they actually came back to me because they were producing some more ads and they had loved what I'd done with the last one, so they asked if I'd be interested in submitting more music, which I did, and thankfully enough, one of those tracks landed as well, so I landed a second ad with them. So that's the story of how I landed those 2 ads, and if you have any questions about that or want me to dig deeper into anything, feel free to comment below. And again, credit where credit is due. If it weren't for Tommy Z's masterclass, I'm not sure that I would have even had the knowledge or the confidence to pursue this opportunity in the first place. However, because of what I learned in that masterclass, I felt much more confident pursuing this opportunity, handling the negotiations, and really just having an overall better understanding of how the whole process of landing an ad worked. Now that we've covered how those ad placements happened and how I landed them, let's actually jump into Logic and I'll break down the productions of the tracks. Alright, so here we are in Logic, and this is actually the track that landed the first ad for Peter Millar called Passing Dreams. I actually did put both of these on all streaming platforms, so if you want to check those out, the link will be down below. First, I will mention that after studying the reference ad, I took some notes, which I'll share with you so you can kind of see where my head was at. Obviously, I knew that these were 60-second spots, so I had to create 60-second tracks. My notes that I had written down were that it was constantly evolving, cinematic, creating a sonic landscape, neutral emotion but very captivating, minimal, subtle, constant motion. So yeah, that's just kind of the best way that I could describe it, describe that feeling with words, but really I just kind of knew the feeling that I had to emulate. So let's go ahead and listen through this track, and then I'll go ahead and break down the entire production. Okay, so that's the track. As you can see, it's a very simple production. It's a very simple track. It's really just about creating that mood and that emotion, because with music licensing and working in sync, our goal is to play a very supportive role. And so nothing is supposed to be too flashy, just really kind of, again, supporting that mood and supporting the emotion. So first off, we'll go ahead and look at this piano because that's how the track started. And I'll go ahead and unfreeze this so we can take a look at what I used. And this was just a patch in Keyscape. So there's actually this factory preset called it's LA Custom C7 Wash, and I just edited that one, and that's kind of one of the piano patches that I use pretty regularly. It's this Wash Broken. I think actually because back in college I had scored a short film called Broken, and that was kind of the piano patch that I used on that. So again, look at this here. It's just you can see these 2 MIDI regions here. That's kind of the basic idea. Just listen to this by itself. Very, very simple. And then in the second half here, I introduce sort of a melody line on top just to give it some more motion. And my apologies, it sounded like the sustain pedal was kind of glitching out there and cutting out. And then at the end here, I just took the final chord and then reversed that. Go ahead and unfreeze this so we can look at it. Oh, and I forgot to show the processing on this piano. It's just some very, very simple EQ. Nothing too crazy. Just cutting out some of the lows. And then on this final chord that I reversed, I think probably just the same EQ. Yep, and then throwing some reverb on there just to kind of wash out that ending, and so it just doesn't abruptly end. It's very simple as well. And at the time, I didn't know these were going to be radio spots, so this is kind of an important thing to highlight as well. Typically in 60-second ads or any ad spots, the last few seconds is when the brand's logo is actually going to pop up. So this is sort of intentional on my part to have kind of just a natural ring out for the last few seconds. And then if you can see on this pre-master channel, I actually automate the volume out just to avoid any clicks or pops. So right before the 60-second mark, it's actually completely cutting out just to make sure that nothing goofy happens. Next, let's go ahead and look at the strings here. So first we have this chamber grid layer, and I'll go ahead and unfreeze this so we can look at that. And this is a patch from Olafur Arnold's Chamber Evolutions, and I'm not going to go fully into how this instrument works because it's kind of complicated, but essentially you have this grid here with all these different pegs, and you can kind of choose different articulations and such. It's really, really beautiful string library, really natural performances, and then we just have some basic EQ filtering some stuff out. And then again, some reverb. And in this situation, I chose to put the reverb directly on the tracks just because it's more of a sound design choice. You know, sometimes I will bus my reverbs, which I'll show you in another production later on. And that's kind of when you want to put something more in of a natural place. But when I'm actually using it as a sound design choice, I typically will just put it right on the track. So let's go ahead and listen to what this one sounds like. Okay, so you kind of get the idea of that one. It just basically repeats. Just beautiful, beautiful sounding strings. Really great library. Next, we have the chamber waves. Go ahead and open this one up. And this as well is from the Olafur Arnold's Chamber Evolutions, except this is the waves patch. So you have all these different lengths of articulations that you can choose from. And this one I'm using the long vibratos. Again, these are really beautiful string sounds, and they're realistic performances that are recorded. So just a really great way to add some beautiful strings to your productions. Go ahead and listen to what these sound like. All right, so that's those. Again, just really beautiful sounding strings. That's one of my favorite, absolute favorite libraries to use, and I use it quite a bit. And then we have this electric cello layer. Go ahead and open this one up. And again, on these last two, it's just simple EQ and reverb on those, nothing too crazy. And this we have for the electric cello. It's the Spitfire Audio Contemporary Drama Toolkit, which is another great library. It makes kind of scoring these ads and doing different sort of minimal cinematic music super easy. And I'm just using the long E cello soft, the flautando patch it looks like. So go ahead and listen to this one here. All right, so there's that. And then lastly, we have this vocal layer. Go ahead and open this track stack. And I'll go ahead and open this instrument. And again, this is the Contemporary Drama Toolkit from Spitfire Audio. And this one, I'm just using a long vocal patch called Vox Nana. Go ahead and listen to what this layer is. And I know this one is super buried in the mix, but just kind of filled it out and kind of gave it some warmth and fullness. All right, and so there's that layer. That is the entire track. So if you want to hear all that in context, feel free to go back with the timestamps of the chapters and re-listen to the playthrough. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at the second track that landed the second ad placement. Like I said, they came back to me after the first one and asked if I'd like to submit for another round of ads, which this is the track that landed the second one. And so again, let's just listen to the entire track all the way through, and then I'll kind of break down the different layers. All right, so there's that track. Again, this one is called It All Remains. So first, let's go ahead and again look at the piano. Go ahead and unfreeze this here. And for this one, I actually used Native Instruments Noir, which is a really beautiful felt piano. And I think they have some other stuff that's not felt in here. But for this one, I just used the Emotional Felt with Delay patch. And it looks like I didn't even do any processing. So this is kind of a topic for another video as well. But a lot of times when people think they have mix issues, or you kind of think, oh, we'll just fix it in the mix. Really, it's probably just a problem in the arrangement. So this is something I learned in school too, studying orchestration and arranging. But a lot of times with your arranging and your orchestration and the way you write your parts, you can actually solve a lot of your mix issues right away. And so if you're choosing really great sound sources and writing in a way to where, you're not writing parts that are constantly clashing with each other and fighting each other in the frequency spectrum, a lot of the mix issues just kind of work themselves out. So on these tracks, you'll see there's very little processing. It's just using really great sounding instruments and doing proper arranging and writing. And I will point out too, these tracks probably took 45 minutes or less each to write. And part of that, what allows me to work so quickly is using templates. So as you'll see, I kind of have this session very cleanly organized and everything's neat, and I have these different track stacks, and it's just a really nice template. I have already made an entire video showing how I create my original template from scratch, and this is something I highly recommend you check out if you want to get into this stuff. If you start with a template, it just makes it super easy. The template I have has like 400 tracks in it, and basically I can just open that up and start writing right away. Any instrument that I want to use or anything that I need is just there, sort of ready to go. So moving on, let's go ahead and look at the strings here. Here we have the Olafur Arnold's chamber grid. Go ahead and unfreeze this so we can check this out. And this again is from the Olafur Arnold's Chamber Evolutions library. And again, it's that same grid instrument that I showed you in the last track. Let's go ahead and listen to this one quickly. All right, so you kind of get the idea with that one. And then next we have the chamber waves again. And of course, this is again from the Olafur Arnold's Chamber Evolutions library using the vibrato long articulation. Go ahead and listen to this layer. All right, so you get the idea of that one. Now, if we go down here, again, we have the Contemporary Drama Toolkit from Spitfire Audio. Go ahead and unfreeze this and pull this up. I was using the Plucked Textures articulation in here, which is one that I've used quite a bit, I believe. Go ahead and listen to what this sounds like on its own. All right, so you get the idea of that layer. And as far as processing on that one, just some simple EQ, filtering some stuff out. And then OTT, I'm sure I just threw that on there to get some more volume out of there. If I recall correctly, it's a pretty quiet preset. And then some reverb, nothing too crazy. And then down below that, we have another instance of the Contemporary Drama Toolkit. Go ahead and open this one up here. And this one is with the Piano Cloud. Oh yeah, I think this is definitely a preset that I've used quite a bit. If I recall correctly though, this one has like some bird chirping and stuff in it. So this one honestly kind of annoys me because it's a beautiful preset, but there's like these annoying birds that like will randomly come in. So kind of makes it hard to use in certain situations, but definitely a nice preset if you can get it to work. Very similar processing on this one. And I think this is where the melody comes in. So we'll go ahead and listen to this layer. All right, and that is all for this track. So, like I said, these are very, very simple productions and very simple tracks, but they did their job, obviously, since they landed the placements. And again, it's just really just about setting that mood and supporting that emotion. And so, yeah, that concludes the 2 tracks that I wrote for the Peter Millar ad spots. All right, so that concludes part 1 of this series. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that way you can be notified next week when part 2 is released. And of course, if you're watching in the future, you can just go ahead and click on part 2 on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video for part 2.